Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending our 2019 Transportation Summit. Please continue to eat and ignore me. There we go. Thanks, Mayor. My name is Matt Largent. I'm the President and CEO of Williamson, Inc., and thank you all for being here today. I greatly appreciate it. Reducing traffic congestion and improving circulation is one of the three major initiatives of Williamson, Inc. You know, we could spend days talking about the challenges of traffic. We all know it. But we're going to spend the next hour or so talking about the solutions. And there are homegrown companies like Hitch, one of our exhibitors today, working on getting more people to carpool. The City of Franklin investing tens of millions of dollars to build increased capacity on our roadways. And according to our annual business survey, the nearly 70% of our companies that allow flexible scheduling to avoid peak traffic times, and 40% of our companies that allow their employees to work from home, which, as you would guess, makes an employee's commute much, much shorter and reduces traffic for everybody else on the roadways. Before we jump into the summit, I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Nissan, for making this entire event possible. I greatly appreciate Nissan's community support for organizations and initiatives and for supporting the great work across Middle Tennessee. At this time, I want to introduce Eric Godfrey, the Director of Business Development and Strategy of Nissan, to say a few words. Eric? Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. First of all, welcome on behalf of Nissan to this lunch. Thank you for joining and spending your time on this topic today. We're excited to be part of this conversation. As Matt said, my title is Director of Business Strategy and Planning for Nissan North America, just around the corner. And the neat part about that is that my job is essentially to help sort of script what we think the future is going to look like for our industry in the manufacturing sector of transportation. And that's both exciting and occasionally a little bit scary. But if I were to summarize what that future looks like in a single word, the word would definitely be change. The way that we move around is obviously changing, and the pace of that change is accelerating, which is exciting. But there's an expression in our industry: the next 10 years is going to bring more change than the last 75 to the auto industry. And I think that that's really true. When you look at the rise of autonomous solutions, when you look at sort of the breaking down of moving around in an individual car to carpooling, as everything that you're going to talk about today, micro-transit type of solutions, and technology enabling new public transit solutions, the way people move around is going to fragment, and what that means for an auto manufacturer is very interesting. What it means for us as members of a community is very interesting, but it's also a huge opportunity. So we're in this time of transition, and just to give a couple of examples, if you think about it, the rise of ride-hailing services, the Ubers and Lyfts of the world. Those are great in the sense that they take away the burden on parking. If you're being dropped off somewhere, the car's not being parked. So if you're pressured with finding a place to park more cars, which I think some people in this room face that issue, that starts to go away. But on the other hand, you have the new burden that pops up of congestion at the drop-off and pickup zones. And so suddenly curbsides that were just quiet are now packed and hopping with cars and people. And you have pedestrians wandering around in a place they weren't before. So it's a new solution, a new problem that comes up with the solution. Scooters, a popular topic and always a fun and controversial one. They are a really great urban mobility solution, but getting used to something so radically different is going to take, and we're seeing it, layers of change to happen as we figure out how to accommodate that solution in our urban mobility environment, and even into the suburbs like Williamson County. So what does that mean? We're in this period of transition, and it's worth sticking it out and figuring out which of these solutions are going to work. Because in the end, these new mobility solutions, whether they seem far-fetched or not, start to solve real problems that we all face with congestion, with pollution. Nobody in here has an infrastructure budget that's as big as they'd like it to be. And many people here have the burden of trying to find a way to provide a mobility solution affordably for people that are disabled or maybe not as economically privileged. These new solutions start to bridge that gap. So it's worth working together to figure out what the path forward looks like. And that's why this conversation is so important. And it needs to play out in communities across the country. Nissan wants to be part of those conversations nationwide, but we're particularly interested in this one here. This is our backyard. This is our home base here in Williamson County in Middle Tennessee. And we have traffic challenges, and we want to be part of that solution, part of the dialogue. So thank you for starting the dialogue here. Enjoy your time, enjoy the conversation today, and we look forward to playing a part going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. That's great. Thank you, Eric, so much. I appreciate that. I also want to take a few minutes and thank our event sponsors, Home to Suites, Hitch Rewards. Thank our media sponsors as well, Community Impact Newspaper, which you actually see in your seat, which had a special section around transportation as well. Make sure you take a look at that. Homepage Media Group, Livability, and the Williamson Herald. Also, I love this, I saw a lot of people talking to our exhibitors, but make sure you get a chance to do that on your way out. Andrews Transportation Group, the City of Franklin, City of Spring Hill, Franklin Tomorrow, the Friends of Franklin Park, Ride Simply, and the TMA Group. If you're tweeting, Instagramming, or Facebooking about this event, make sure to tag us. Use @Williamson_Inc. And it's my pleasure as we start to kick off the summit to introduce a friend of mine and someone who's been a champion of addressing traffic congestion in Williamson County and Franklin through a variety of on-time and under-budget construction projects, and also through his leadership regionally in the Mayor's Caucus and the Greater National Regional Council. Franklin Mayor Ken Moore, who is here to make a special announcement on behalf of Franklin Transit. Mayor Moore.
Well, hello, everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to just say a few words. And as you just heard, we're not going to be able to build our way out of this. Autonomous vehicles are not going to solve all of our problems. Technology is certainly going to help us some. You know, we're looking at adaptive signal control. We're hearing about Hitch. But I've got a new announcement, which is one more spoke in the wheel if things are going to solve our problems moving forward. So as the Mayor of Franklin, on behalf of the Transportation Management Association and Franklin Transit Authority, I'm excited to share some news with you. And it's a new app that you can get on your phone as of today. You need to go to followfrank.org, or you can go to Passio Go in the App Store to download Franklin's Transit's new free mobile app. So that way you can track where the fixed route buses are in the city of Franklin, whether it's on your iPhone, your Android, or whatever kind of phone you have. So we're excited about this additional piece of technology that's going to be coming forward. You know, 60% of our ridership on the Franklin Transit Authority are people going to work. So this is going to help them be there on time and give them more confidence whenever they take transit. So take time to download that app, take a look at it. I see a lot of phones out. Thank you. So I look forward to the rest of the meeting. Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate it. You can take that. That's your souvenir. Oh, you can go that way. All right. Thanks, Mayor. And you know, the mayor's right. There's not a silver bullet that fixes congestion and improves circulation. It is going to take a number of different things implemented in this community across Middle Tennessee that's going to help everybody make their commute shorter and help reduce congestion in our community and across our region. A few years ago, we took 90 business and community leaders to the Denver region to learn from one of the most dynamic economies in the country. Our second Williamson Ford trip presented an opportunity to learn about how another region addressed challenges associated with growth, especially around traffic congestion. You know, when we take these trips, we're not trying to become a copy of Denver or a copy of Austin or a copy of Northern Virginia. We take these to better understand why and how a community made the decision they made and take the lessons learned home and decide how to apply them as we address some of the similar challenges related to growth. Simply put, we leave the bad, we take the good to make us better. That's why we do these things. And one of the great parts of the trip are the leaders we get a chance to meet and learn from. And today we have a great leader keynoting our program, the mayor of Lone Tree, Colorado, Jackie Millay. During her time as mayor, the city prioritized investment in transportation, economic development, and recreation and cultural amenities. Lone Tree is home to 2 regional transportation district light rail stations. Within the city limits, the Lone Tree Link offers free shuttle service between key employment centers and restaurants, retail, and light rail stations. Before Mayor Millay comes to the stage, we have a brief video to play that showcases Lone Tree, Colorado.
misbehave and elevate and take it up a notch. I'm going up these levels, gonna show you what I got. I'm gonna hit that jackpot. Once I go, I can't stop. I'm gonna light it up bright, bright. Turn on those neon lights. Bring the heat up, I'ma play it, I'ma start a fire. I'm going up these levels to the top, I'm rising higher. Electric feelings in my bones, in my bones, in my bones. Make me color, make me glow, make me glow, make me glow. Shine like diamonds, bright as gold, bright as gold, bright as gold. Let those good vibrations flow. I got that glow.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you to Williamson, Inc. and Matt and Griffin, who've been great hosts for me, for inviting me to be a part of this conversation today. And the first thing I actually would like to do is, if there are any veterans in the room, would you please rise and let us thank you for your service today? We are not, please, gentlemen and ladies, if you are here, can we thank them? I hope we were all reminded, but if anybody turned a TV on this morning, we certainly were remembering back to D-Day and that invasion, and I think we were all reminded, as I had breakfast with the mayors this morning, that freedom isn't free, and without the work of those phenomenal individuals, the greatest generation, we wouldn't be here today. So I want to just say a huge thank you to you gentlemen and ladies that have served us so well in this country. So, that aside, I want to say congratulations to everybody that's here today, because you're a part of something very, very important, the conversation around transportation. It is essential to community, and I think it's essential to economic development, and I think it's essential to really build something special. Not that you don't already have it here in Williamson County. I'm certainly enjoying my time. So let me tell you a little bit about where I am from. So Lone Tree is a premier Colorado community. It's connected by great neighborhoods, vibrant public spaces, thriving businesses, beautiful natural environment, great schools, very, very similar to what you have in this community. So kind of why did you ask me to come preach to this particular choir? Because you guys seem to be running on full cylinders, right? So first of all, I'll tell you why. I was like, Franklin, Tennessee. Now, Money Magazine a couple years ago came out with ratings of the best place to live. And Lone Tree was so excited to be number 7 on that list. Well, you know who number 4 was on that list? Franklin, Mayor. So yes, I am here to steal all your secrets and recruit all your local talent. So I think, but I do think we're peer communities, and I think there's some lessons that we've learned in Lone Tree, Colorado that you might be interested to hear about today. So really the 3 things that I think have made a difference in the city of Lone Tree were strategic planning for development, transportation investments, and those 2 really led to the strong economic development that has occurred in the city of Lone Tree over the last really decade or so. So let me orient you to who we are in Lone Tree. And I apologize, I'm going to just use the pointer on this, but hopefully you'll be able to follow it. So you see right here in this map, everybody kind of knows that big black blob is Denver. This is I-70. Has anybody been out to ski in Colorado? Well, you've traveled along I-70 primarily from the airport right to I-70. Now, I-70 is a nightmare. So even though this may be the direct route, a lot of times people take this route, this 470 route to the mountains as well, and particularly if you're going to the mountains from the southern part. I-25 is a major north-south connector, 470 major east-west connector. City of Lone Tree sits really right here at the corner of Main and Main. And who remembers their social studies history? Where did civilization form? At the intersection of the Tigris and Euphrates River, right? So this is where civilization is formed for us, as we say. So I-25 is this major route that goes right through here. Those blue triangles are major employers kind of along this area. Some of the major employers are, later that is. These are interchanges. These are major interchanges. One of the first things that Lone Tree has going for us is this I-25 interchange. And then right down here, this is a brand new interchange I'll talk about later. As was mentioned, the two blue circles are two existing light rail stations. We worked hard to get those two. The green dots were planned light rail stations, and I'm really thrilled to let you know they actually did open, so now we have 5. For a community our size, that's a lot. Lone Tree's population is just 15,000 people, but our friends and neighbors say we really punch above our weight as a community because, and I'll share with you some of the details on that. We have a daytime population in the city of about 30,000. We have made a strategic annexation that really is going to drive some growth and development in the city, which is going to bring our population to 40 to 50,000, and we expect to be adding another 20 to 30,000 jobs over the next 20 years. So this is the strategic annexation, that orange area of the city. It was annexed by a vote of the people in 1999. And it really did drive a lot of the change. Prior to that annexation, Lone Tree really was an outer ring suburb of Denver. Most folks lived in Lone Tree, they commuted downtown into the city. Since that annexation in 1999, a lot of growth and development for the business side has occurred. We're now planning for the residential part of that. Some of the economic stats I'm just going to run through very, very quickly. 3% unemployment rate, that's about what's going in most of the country. We've got $1.4 billion of retail sales in the city of Lone Tree. As I was chatting with mayors this morning, that is the lifeblood of the community. Municipal sales tax is how we pay for most everything in our city. The median home price in Lone Tree is about $820,000. We've got 4.5 million square feet of retail space, 3.1 million square feet of office space, and the average rent in our office space is about $29 a square foot. Pretty respectable. We've got major employers. These major employers comprise just north of 10,000 of the employees that come into the city. Park Meadows Retail Resort, Skyridge Medical Center, Charles Schwab, Kaiser Permanente, Canvas Credit Union, and then the two asterisks are Cochlear Americas and Kiewit. Those are two recent economic development announcements that have happened within the city of Lone Tree. And those two will bring about just over 2,000 jobs to the city. Let me dig in a little bit on some of the major employment centers. Park Meadows Retail Resort. We do not have a mall. We have a retail resort. That is a very important thing. Don't ask me why, but so it's a really fancy, nice mall. There's about 2,000 people that work in the mall, but there are 20 million people that visit that mall every year, which really drives a lot of traffic into our community. This mall is about as old as the city. It was opened its doors in 1996. The city was founded in 1995. Again, the lifeblood of really the Lone Tree economy, because most of our revenue is coming from this mall and the shops that have come, auxiliary to this mall. Skyridge Medical Center, we have to thank Nashville for this little gem in our community. Health One opened this hospital in 2003. There's about 3,000 people that are employed at this campus. The architect and the construction manager are from Nashville. Prior to this opening, there was not a regional acute medical facility in the entire county of Douglas County in Colorado. We're just 20 miles south of Denver. I mean, I'm shocked when I realized and learned that there was no hospital in our community until then. But this has been a real driver of jobs and housing prices, quite frankly. The doctors can afford to live there. Charles Schwab opened its campus in Lone Tree in 2014. There's 4,500 employees that are at the Charles Schwab campus. Freeway access and light rail access were noted by Charles Schwab when they came to the community as why did they decide to settle in Lone Tree. Kiewit Engineering Company just announced plans, and I'm sorry, it's now you're getting to see everything. Let me go back. Kiewit Engineering Company announced plans this spring to bring initially about 1,100 jobs, eventually 2,000 jobs. They have enough land. But what I want to point out to you guys is that this is a rendering that they provided to us. But do you see those canopies on the lower corner of this? That is actually the light rail station that just opened 3 weeks ago. So the doors of light rail are opening onto Keywood Engineering Company, which we are thrilled. In addition, and these have all happened within the last 2 decades, the City of Lone Tree invested in the arts. We know transportation is extremely important to drive economic development in a community, but we know that's not enough. We passed municipal bonds, and this $22 million facility opened its doors in 2011. We have everything happening here from Broadway stars, Tony, Emmy Award winners, my state of the city, super big seller there. We also have business leaders. The first time Charles Schwab came to Lone Tree, this is where he came. We had security. I could not get into my own art center. A gentleman stopped me at the door and said, "Ma'am," and I said, "Mayor," and he said, "Please go right in." So. But in addition to the Art Center, we've invested heavily in recreation as well. I want to point out, we actually have a special district that our residents pay taxes to fund recreation. The Lone Tree community, as I indicated, we consider ourselves a premier community, just like Williamson County, just like Franklin. And our residents were not happy with the level of service that they were getting in the facilities. So we chose to tax ourselves to build additional recreation facilities. So we built 2 pools, 8 new tennis courts. We invested in trails and we upgraded our rec center. So we are a community that does invest in ourselves. In addition to this, we opened up a brand new library in the city. We bought the old library building. We turned that into a community center that we're partnering with the rec district on. So while the transportation investments are extremely important to economic development, you can't just do that. And I certainly have seen the investments in Williamson County. You guys have a lovely community here. Now, you guys are used to looking at farms and ranch land. Well, we are not. We are city folk, even though we're in Colorado. And this property was the first homestead in the Lone Tree community. And in fact, for a couple thousand acres around. Instead of tearing it down, which could have done, the city invested with a local master developer to preserve this. And in fact, we're very proud. We just won an award from the state of Colorado for historic preservation. And we use this facility for community events like our fall festival, which is wonderful. So now let's get back to transportation. That's why you folks are here. This is a transportation timeline just over the course of really from 2003 to today of all the things that have happened in the city of Lone Tree. Some of them have involved transit light rail, some involve roadway expansions and interchange upgrades, and some of them really are bike ped. And again, we believe in an all of the above strategy. You cannot do one thing because that one thing doesn't solve everyone's needs. So the most important thing that we did, though, that set the stage was in 2003, we took a vote in the city of Lone Tree to annex into the regional transportation district. Our residents voted overwhelmingly to do that, to tax themselves for a service. So 73% of the voters in the city said, yes, we want to do that. Plans were already underway for the light rail expansion in the community of Denver, and we wanted to be a part of it. In addition to that, we opened some existing light rail stations. Matt mentioned the 2 that we had opened, but we also built a new Ridgegate Freeway interchange. We improved and expanded the I-25 corridor around the community. And then some of the details of our shuttle, our microtransit, I'm going to get into a little bit more later. But I think key to our success was really the acknowledgement that we had to be part of a regional solution if we were going to evolve from a suburban community into a community where you really can live, work, and play. As everyone who's involved with local government knows, rooftops cost you money, retail commercial brings you money. So if we had just evolved into a residential community, which would have been lovely, we could not have afforded to keep the quality and the character of the community that we had. So with that annexation, we really needed to look forward as to how we were going to be paying for these premier services moving forward. So, as I mentioned, first and foremost was that initial vote. And I show this because the family that is pictured in this program was actually one of our first council members. This was an initiative of our very first city council, was to get the community annexed into the regional district. And as we good elected officials always do, we drag our cute family members along for every photo opportunity that we can, so we can be relatable to you, and you will then vote for what we want you to vote for, right? So yay, the vote passed. We had the 2 light rail stations, those 2 existing stations. One was at the mall. One was at County, where our Park Meadows Retail Resort was. The other one was at a Lincoln station. These 3 that we hear, that you see, the 3 at the bottom, the southern end of this map, were the future stations: Skyridge Station, Lone Tree City Center, and Ridgegate Parkway. So again, I already gave away the ending. We opened these 3 weeks ago, and it's not the same dress. I'm not wearing the same dress. It's different. So I was like, how many blue dresses do I own? Quite a few. So we were thrilled to have this, but there were significant political and financial hurdles that came into play. When the light rail extension was originally completed in 2006, everybody felt like Lone Tree got enough. You got 2 stations. You don't have that many people. You don't have that many businesses. You have your fair share. We have not built out the 2003 vote of the people in Lone Tree preceded a 2004 vote of the Denver metro region to actually build this large transit agency and kind of into the Netherlands of all of Denver. So we're the southern portion. Well, I hate to share with you, but there's northern communities that have been paying for light rail for decades that don't have anything yet. And who are we, this upstart little community down south, to say we need more? Well, in any good negotiation, you want to make it impossible for the other side to say no, right? So what do you show up with? Cash, right? You show up with cash. So this was a $233 million expansion, and we have an elected board that makes the decisions from our regional transit district that represents all of the Denver region. Remember those communities that have been paying for years and don't have anything yet? They were not very happy about a single dime going anywhere else but to them. But to complete our line, we showed up with $25 million in cash. That was unprecedented, not just in Colorado. That is actually unprecedented nationwide. That $25 million in cash that my community, when we partnered with our county, we partnered with our business community as well, and we partnered with the master developer. So of that $25 million, over half of it came from the private sector. So we showed up with this cash, which then allowed RTD to access a small starts grant from the federal government. When the federal government heard that there was a local community showing up with $25 million, and they only wanted another $92 million from them, they said, this is a good investment. We're going to get an ROI on our money that we don't get anywhere else. So we made it impossible for them to say no. We also were very friendly to our neighbors up north. This was the north-south conflict in Colorado, right? And the South won, so shh. All right, so moving right along. So I want to point out what happened along that corridor, right? So the dotted line you see with the yellow circles around it, and I apologize, I don't have a better pointer for you. Those are our light rail stations now, and as of 3 weeks ago, they all opened. The big green dots are our major employers. So Park Meadows Retail Resort, Kaiser Permanente. This is a very interesting story. That is a 300,000 square foot building, and they bought additional land to expand. That land wasn't for sale. Kaiser knew they needed a facility somewhere in the southern part of the metro area. And so they sent their real estate folks out driving around saying, go find me something next to a light rail station with good freeway access. We didn't even know they were looking. This was an unexpected blessing. This land wasn't even for sale. Kaiser saw it across the street from a light rail station and said, we want it. They found out who owned it, went and did an unsolicited bid and bought it, unbeknownst to us, and they showed up at our doorstep. We said, thank you very much. Location, 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 right? Who sells real estate? So we have a multi-tenant office. There's probably about 800 to 1,000 jobs there. Charles Schwab, I mentioned, 4,500 jobs. Kiewit, starting out with 1,100 jobs, and then Skyridge Medical Center, 3,000 jobs. The little blue dots are the multifamily residential that has come up adjacent to this light rail line and I-25 as well. So we've got about 3,400 units, residential units that have come in, multifamily only, along this light rail line, which is the affordable housing in our community. If you recall, median home price of $820,000. So we're going to back up just a hair. So when Matt started this, we only had 2 light rail stations, right? And we wanted 3. We were trying to attract these new businesses. We were trying to demonstrate that we are getting this light rail. We are committed to getting this light rail. The other thing is, our residents are probably just like you guys. They're like, yeah, that's great, Mayor, but I don't want another 10,000 people commuting into our city every day. We've got enough going on with traffic and congestion. And as awesome as Charles Schwab is, I don't want 4,500 more cars on my road and commute times. So we came up with a concept, a fixed route shuttle called the Lone Tree Link. The Lone Tree Link mirrored the alignment of our future light rail stations. When Charles Schwab came in 2014, the day the doors opened, we had this shuttle running. It would take people from our existing light rail stop 10-minute headways to their office and back, and it circulated in the morning, afternoon, lunchtime. It was more frequent in the morning and the afternoon, and it stopped all along those major employers all along that light rail route. We think this was really essential to demonstrate not only to the businesses, but to our residents that we were committed to not just bringing light rail in, but actually solving a complete transportation solution. We also really learned a lot when we were operating this Lone Tree Link, and it gave us some great insight into kind of having a shuttle and what that might look like. Because, and then once we knew we were getting the light rail, we had been toying with the idea of kind of a call and ride on-demand service for a long, long time. But there were some significant logistic issues associated with it. Well, technology improved and evolved, and we kind of got used to this access from your phone of something. So we started a pilot with Uber in 2017, in the fall of 2017, for Link On Demand. This was an on-demand service. It's from the app on your phone. Originally, when you clicked Uber, which everybody seems to have on their phone, and you put an origin and destination that was within the city of Lone Tree, this option came up for Link On Demand. It was a free ride. This shuttle that had been our fixed route shuttle would show up at your door. You would partner. It's an ADA compliant 12 to 14 person shuttle, and it would bring you to your destination as long as you were traveling in the city. The pilot with Uber was great. We learned a lot. But Uber is not into sharing. We could not get any data from Uber. They kept it all. It was free. They didn't charge us anything, so it was great. But you get what you pay for. So we realized that we needed a little better service. I mean, again, premier Colorado community, we pay. If it's not good enough, we'll pay a little bit more. So we, in February, relaunched with VIA as the back-end software provider. It's still Link On Demand. Nothing has changed from our resident standpoint, except they've got to access it from the Link On Demand app now, not from the Uber app. The other thing we found from people is that some folks wanted to call. They didn't want to have to do anything on their phone. So this Link On Demand has made significant improvements to mobility in our community. We're averaging, in fact, I had to go back and check and recheck this number, and I need to move because I don't want to make sure I'm giving you the wrong number. No, it is. 192 rides a day are happening on this. So that's 192 cars not on the road in our community, which is tremendous. And I think it's not just for people accessing light rail. So the tweens are using this to get to each other's houses or to get to the mall. There's a gentleman who has some vision impairments who came up to me and said, Mayor, if you didn't have this, I wouldn't live in Lone Tree. I moved here for this because I can access this in the morning. It takes me to light rail. I can get to my job downtown and then come back. Our seniors are using this. We have a senior living facility in our community. The first use on a Saturday was 2 ladies going to the mall to buy shoes. I mean, this has changed people's lives in our community. We're very, very proud of it. So in addition to this, we have invested in EV charging stations. You guys have a lot of them here. There weren't any public stations in the city of Lone Tree. So in May, we just partnered with the state of Colorado, and we opened 5 EV charging stations in our city. And then my next goal is to actually have our shuttles become electric vehicles. So we then are dealing with the carbon emissions as well. In addition to that, and the mayor mentioned it, all great mayors think alike, adaptive traffic signal program. This is a great pilot we're doing with the communities just to the north of us. The yellow line here is I-25. So the City of Centennial, City of Greenwood Village, and the City of Lone Tree all share Yosemite, which is a major arterial. And when the traffic gets bad on I-25, what do folks do? They go into the local roads, they come along this corridor. We are partnering to kind of improve the signal timing along this corridor. And the Denver Technological Center is just at the tip of this as well, at that Bellevue Avenue line. So there's a considerable traffic in the morning and afternoon going up and down along that corridor. So this is another important project. These are expensive. This is $1.1 million for 12 traffic signals to put in the technology that we need. And we're excited about the opportunities that we're going to learn from this. And if it works, we're going to be employing it, I think, on some of the other corridors in the community. We also widen roads, right? We widen roads. That's another important part of what we do for our transportation solutions. If you can barely see at the left edge of the slide is I-25. This was the Ridgegate interchange that was built and opened in 2009, in the fall of 2009. The roadway to the east did not even exist at that point. That opened in 2010. We are already having to widen that road. That project started this year. It's going from 2 to 4 lanes, and it's going to include, it's a $27 million project. 60% of that funding is coming from the master developer. If you recall from earlier, that big orange blob, that was 3,500 acres of greenfield, 2,000 acres on the east side. This road will provide major access to the growth that we're expecting there. So we didn't wait till it got congested. We're like, let's get it going ahead of time. In addition, we've made significant investments in our pedestrian mobility access. That is our iconic pedestrian bridge that crosses a major arterial, east-west arterial in the city. It connects business centers, it connects communities, it connects recreation amenities. It's part of a regional trail system. And it actually has become the signature feature of the city of Lone Tree. I mentioned those 2,000 acres. Here they are. This is Greenfield. Again, straight up and down is our I-25. And then going across is I-25. Straight up and down is Lincoln Avenue. That's the road that our pedestrian bridge crosses. That large campus you see at the lower portion is Skyridge Medical Center. The light rail stations, you can just see them weaving in. This was obviously taken before they were built. But I think our proactive development and zoning and also the transportation investments make this parcel of land extremely attractive for future development. If you look to the bottom of that slide, what we have seen there is over 12,000 jobs are already on the books with the Kiewit Company and will be built in that area adjacent to the freeway, the 2 interchanges, and the light rail station, which sits in that plot of land just adjacent to one of the interchanges. It's hard to show, but you guys get the sense. It's important to have access to the freeway and to light rail. So plans for that east side include a 440-acre commercial, retail, kind of more downtown environment. We've got 11 million square feet of commercial retail going in, 2,000 higher density residential units connected by open spaces. A third of that 2,000 acres will be preserved as open space, and this is just a rendering. So right now, much to the chagrin of our neighbors to the north. Not only do we have 5 light rail stations, we've got one that's actually in the middle of empty greenfield right now. Now, of course, you build it now. I mean, you don't not put that in because it's essential, but we know it's a source point with some folks. This is this beautiful colored map represents the zoning for 3 residential villages, and this is where the majority of the residential growth is going to occur. There will be neighborhood retail here as well. There'll be 3 new schools, a high school. We have already, there's a CU, University of Colorado, has a location there where Boulder professors come in, Colorado Springs professors come in there and teach. We've assigned some more land to them if they want to expand that campus. So we're excited to see what the future is going to hold for the city of Lone Tree, and I think if you're going to judge it by our past, I think our future is pretty darn bright. But in conclusion, we added this up recently. The city invested $13.5 million in transportation infrastructure. We leveraged our $13.5 million to attract $330 million in partner contributions. And over the course of that time, the assessed valuation in our community increased by $700 million. And we think those are pretty significant numbers considering we've got 2,000 acres of greenfield where we've already done all the investment. There's nothing else that nothing large scale that we need to do there. So we're going to see this number double. So with that, that's kind of the story of transportation, and thank you for your time this morning. I appreciate that.
Sit on there, and I've got a few gifts. That's all right. Okay. Well, thanks, Mayor. We greatly appreciate that. Thanks for making the time to come here, too. I just want to spend a couple minutes to ask a couple follow-up questions as part of the conversation. First of all, it wasn't on our list, but I'm curious. Talk about the last slide and the partner contributions, especially on the private sector. How did that look? When you mentioned the $25 million that you raised, how did that come from the private sector, and what did that look like?
So the private sector was very much invested in seeing economic development in the city of Lone Tree, right? There were already some investments there. So we have, it's called Denver South Economic Development Partnership, and they contributed over $3 million to that. And then the developer contributed $10 million. The master developer of those 3,500 acres, and part of that was an in-kind. $3 million roughly was a land donation, but then just about $7.2 million in cash as well. Then the city gave $7 million and the county gave $7 million. So that was the.
Okay, that's great. That's really helpful. Good. So clearly, you've been at the forefront of transportation solutions for Lone Tree and the Denver region. So it's a 2-part question. What have you learned in the process? And as a community working towards starting down the road of a regional transportation system, what would be your advice to us?
I think what I have learned is collaboration, and then money speaks. So I think what is really a common ethic in our city, and fortunately, I'm the 3rd mayor in the city of Lone Tree, but we show up with money. We don't show up with a hand out. Mm-hmm. We say, how can you partner with us to achieve X or Y? The other thing that's really essential to it is community engagement, which is great that you're already doing it. But we, before that historic 2004 vote, and you've heard me share this, there's a Denver Post, very famous front page that says 40 mayors trump 1 governor. Because the governor was not supportive of the the governor at the time was not supportive of this regional transportation fast tracks plan to provide service throughout the metro area. It was the mayors of the cities surrounding Denver and in Denver that worked together and went out to their constituencies, and the business community was also very much a partner to that collaboration. So when Lone Tree succeeds, we know we go out and talk to the people that we represent, and then we talk to the businesses, and then show up with dollars and really articulate a vision that is very much relatable to people. And listen, I mean, we heard a lot of pushback from residents about all of this employment coming into the city because they just saw congestion. Mm-hmm. They didn't see opportunity. I think we have tried to which is why that shuttle was really important.
Okay.
And I think there's good trust in government. We delivered on what we promised.
Right. Okay. Is there a way that you engage that you found to be most effective when it comes to having these sorts of conversations?
Well, I was teasing with the mayors. You can't go to Target or the grocery store anymore if you're elected because you have these conversations everywhere, right?
Yeah.
We have, but we engaged with the business community primarily through our economic development partnership. We engaged, but we also engage. We have tremendous corporate citizens. So I know on a first name basis all of those major employers. I have their phone numbers. They have my phone number. I hear from them, and I engage with them, and I go out and visit with them whenever I get the chance. So I think that's really important to have that engagement. But I also show up at the whatever the is. So for you fill in the blank, and it's not just a ribbon cutting, it's a happy hour in the neighborhood, the Bunko group. Somebody invites me, I'm going to be judging a 4th of July bike parade, one of the HOAs. I mean, I think you go out and you talk to your constituency, and I think that's really, really important as well. It's been for us.
That's great. Good. So you mentioned a lot about light rail as the primary mode, or one of the modes. It's an all-of-the-above system. How did you settle on light rail as opposed to other different potential modes of transportation?
So when the Denver region was considering this, light rail was the coming thing. Everybody had heard of BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit in California, and I don't know that many other options were considered. I will tell you, some of the communities to the north that have not gotten a rail line yet have actually said, we don't want the rail line. We want bus rapid transit. We think it's more flexible. We think it costs less, and it can evolve, and we can change it. So if we were having the discussion today, I actually think the bus rapid transit is a very, very good option that would be considered by us. We had already had a system. You don't want to change modes. That drives folks away. So in Lone Tree, with those 3 new stations stuck, we thought about it, though.
Yeah.
If we couldn't have gotten that grant, we probably would have gone forward with a bus rapid transit solution. But fortunately, we didn't want to change modes.
And when we had a chance to visit a few years ago, we actually did ride a bus rapid transit line.
Yeah.
And we saw stations that looked what a light rail station would look like. And we saw developments around that as well. That was pretty interesting to see. So talk a little bit, as we sort of close this, about, you mentioned the Ridgegate community and attainable housing, affordable housing.
Yep.
What's that been like in a community where you've got your average home price in the upper $800,000?
So, housing crises in the metro area are probably one of the biggest conversation topics lately. And I think the affordability of housing is happening across our country. And in the metro area, it's the focus. We have a Metro Mayor's Caucus as well. And so we do have that tricky. Who are those people moving into those units? And I think it's a slow, hard process. And I will be very honest with you, for Lone Tree, if you remember, we've got Interstate I-25 coming down, kind of separating existing Lone Tree from this new portion. So folks seem to be okay with the affordable housing going in over on the east side, and because it's not butting right up against them. So I think that's a portion of it. The other thing is, I've had in conversations with the developers and our housing authority, I was like, we're building that first. So it's already there, people can see it. There's actually beautiful affordable housing. It's where our teachers live, it's where our firefighters live, it's where our nurse practitioners live. It's where my children might be living. So I think, it is an education and a conversation. So right now, our community is supportive of it. Oh, it's also where the seniors live. I mean, that's the one that gets everybody loves the seniors. So, it's what they can afford to live in as well. So that, I'll come back in 2 years and let you know how it's going. Okay. But for
That's
now,
great.
They seem to be okay with it.
Any other parting words or advice for this group as we head down this road? I know I asked that first, but anything that you'd leave us with, any specific lessons learned or anything we should avoid as we go through this process?
I think you're in the midst of your South Quarter study right now, which I think is brilliant. I think the more you can engage with every aspect of your community, the better. You and I shared, I said, go into the schools and start talking to the BTOs. I mean, the business community is at the table. It sounds like you guys are there. I would challenge the business community to see how you can contribute not just your voice, but some financial resources, because elected officials, whether it's your governors, your state electeds, whether it's the federal government, listen when you show up with money. And if the private sector shows up with money for some reason, the federal government pays a little bit more attention than when the local governments show up with dollars. So I think that's an important piece of it. Again, but don't get in front of the public. And I know you guys had a tough vote last year, 2018 was that vote?
Yeah.
And I think it sounds to me, from armchair quarterback, that Peyton Manning, woohoo, what anyway, Super Bowl, don't forget that. I should have started with that.
That's right. Yeah, yes, we would love that.
I know. It sounds like the public wasn't as engaged in that process, and it kind of came from the top down. I think your South Quarter study from the bottom up is probably a better way to move forward and really have good conversations.
Right. Yeah, I think that's great. Certainly a lot of lessons learned from that. Well, thank you, Mayor Relay, for being a part of this.
My pleasure.
And this is Mayor Millet's first trip to the National Region, and because it is, we bought you a basket of stuff.
Oh, good.
Mayor Millet. So here's your basket of stuff. There's all kinds of Williamson County and Nashville goodies for you, including some wine from Arrington, some T-shirts,
goodness.
some socks, some other kind of stuff.
You.
So thank you. I really appreciate it. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Whoops.
All right. So now that we've had a chance to hear about what's happened in the suburb of Denver, we want to talk about the implications for Williamson County and for Middle Tennessee. So our parade of mayors continues with Mayor Rick Graham from Spring Hill, and he's going to talk about and give an update on the South Corridor study, but also talk about how people can get involved and engage even right here during this lunch. Mayor Graham.
Good day. Thank you. In your seats, there was a form, a survey. If you'll pull that out, please. If you'll start completing that, we'd appreciate it. If for some reason you cannot do it today, you can go to southcorridor.org and complete that later. I'm going to mention a few things about the study as you're filling that out, please. There's probably no surprise to anyone, but Spring Hill has traffic problems. Big surprise. Most of our cities do in our region. Infrastructure, traffic woes is not a local issue. It is a regional issue. Mayor Millett made very good comments on that one. It's so true. It is has to be a collective decision for solutions for the entire region. And she said the key word, collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. Fortunately, we have an opportunity to address these issues together as a region through the efforts of the Greater Nashville Regional Council. I, along with other city and county mayors across Middle Tennessee, serve on the council, which also includes a transportation policy board empowered by the federal government to determine how best to spend federal tax revenue on area, roadway, and transit projects. For the past several months, I've had the privilege of serving as the vice chair of the Transportation Policy Board, formerly referred to as the Nashville MPO. We recently launched a major study to find the most appropriate transportation solutions for the region's South Corridor to better connect communities between Murray and Davidson counties. This allows us, its many stakeholders, to collaborate, there's that word, very publicly on the anticipated cost and benefits of major transportation investments. The federal government requires the completion of studies like this when considering discretionary grants, important word, to assist in funding and financing on all major transit projects. The stakeholders in this survey will be, the general public, elected officials, and our business community. Once completed, the GNRC will publish a report outlining recommendations for implementing locally preferred transportation improvements with focus on identifying the most feasible rapid transit project. As a result, the formal regional transportation plan that will be created will be prepared by the GNRC, and the RTA Transit Master Plan that we know is called In Motion will be updated to reflect the recommendations. So then GNRC, RTA, TDOT, and the local governments will within the corridor will then coordinate to identify funding for the project. I hope that helps a little bit with what the follow-up is going to be with this survey. Please, when you finish your survey, please leave it on the table, and somebody will be around to pick it up at the conclusion. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you so much. So, yeah, and what the mayor said is really important to make sure you participate and your voice is heard in the South Corridor study. That's really important. Also, you know, you've heard it several times here. It's not a silver bullet, right? It's not one single fix. It's different things you can do, and it really starts with our individual behaviors. So there actually is an updated transportation resource page on our website that you can visit and look at what other companies have done to be successful when it comes to different things like flex scheduling, remote working, you know, things like that, ride sharing. Just as a matter of curiosity, how many people carpooled today here for the lunch? Oh, okay, that's higher than I expected. That's great, right? That is certainly one of the things that we can do, and your individual behaviors have a direct impact on traffic and congestion in Williamson County. Our next signature event is actually at the middle of your table. It is the State of the County Address by the County Mayor, Roger Sanderson, on July 24th. It's here at the Marriott, so make sure you mark your calendars and register for that. Also, at the start of this event, we're collecting business cards for 2 people to win tickets to the Nashville Sounds game for the upcoming Williamson County night in July. Those winners are Nell Anderson and Michael Cochran. Please see Griffin. Griffin, raise your hand. He can give you your tickets afterwards. Finally, if you like what you heard today or begin or strengthen a business relationship, you're exactly the kind of person we want as a member of this organization. Please see any member of the team to sign up. We believe that, and we know, a strong business community equals a strong community. Thank you for your support of Williamson County through your investment in Williamson Inc., and have a great rest of the day.